Okay, so listen, Blake is now facing a new problem, and I know what you're thinking. This is another video about that whole old stuff, right? But hear me out, because this story just took a new turn, and trust me, you have to see the receipt. New court documents have just dropped, including text messages, depositions, expert witnesses, and financial records. The entire evidence is painting a very different picture than the one Blake's team has been trying to show the world. She's been claiming this whole time that Justin Baldoni and his team ran some kind of secret operation to destroy her reputation. The mean girl label floating around the internet was all fake, all part of some big conspiracy against her. But that's not what the evidence suggests, and I don't think Blake is taking it well. In fact, from everything I'm seeing, she's absolutely raging, because the evidence isn't supporting her story.
Baldoni's lawyer wrote, "Evidence of Lively's pre-existing reputation is not being offered for the truth that she's a mean girl bully, difficult to work with, or tone deaf, but to establish Lively's reputation prior to the alleged smear campaign to show that defendants' alleged conduct did not cause further harm to her existing reputation."
In 2007, Blake Lively played Serena Vander Woodson on Gossip Girl, and on screen, her character has this amazing best friend, Blair, played by Leighton Meester. But here's what nobody knew back then. The second those cameras stopped rolling, Blake and Leighton stopped being friends. Like, not even close. The former showrunner, Joshua Safran, literally came out and said they avoided each other. Well, it wasn't just that they weren't friends. The stuff that came out later, that's where it gets really dark. You probably remember this clip floating around the internet. There's this interview where someone asked Blake about a potential Gossip Girl spinoff. The rumors were that the show might feature a pet monkey. And Blake, she looked right at Leighton Meester and said, "Well, I got a few of them."
Another promise was no pet monkey. But Chuck has a matching pet monkey with coordinating outfits, and I was like, I would love to be part of the show, but I can't act with a monkey. And then I got a few of them. I'm just kidding.
She got a few of them.
Come on, it was a joke.
Think about that for a second. She literally called her co-star a monkey in front of everyone. And when people started getting uncomfortable, she tried to cover it with, "Come on, it was a joke. Lord have mercy." And you know what? That's literally the oldest trick in the handbook. Say something bad, then hide behind the joke card when you get called out. It works every time if you get away with it often enough, but it gets worse because there's another video that's even more disturbing.
Who else didn't want to act in a cage?
Well,
someone started a cage.
Yeah.
Blake made this comment about people who start in cages. Now, context matters here. Leighton Meester's mother was actually incarcerated when Leighton was born, and Leighton spent the first part of her life living in a halfway house. So, when Blake made that cages comment, she wasn't just being insensitive. She was digging into a colleague's family trauma and using it as a punchline. And if you think that was the worst of it, hold on, because there's footage of Blake controlling Leighton on red carpet, like literally grabbing her and repositioning her, dragging her around frames to get the shot she wanted. It looked less like a friendly photo op and more like a dominance display, like she was establishing her territory, showing everyone who was in charge.
I hope to never, ever, ever be complacent, because I think that that's one of the most tragic things that I could ever be.
So Blake's married to Ryan Reynolds now. She's got her lifestyle brands, her movie career, everything's going great on paper. But the mask slips again in 2016, and this time it's caught on camera for everyone to see.
I'm one of 5 kids, my husband's one of 4, so we are officially breeders. You can go on our website and we will give you some of our children.
This video is wild because it shows you exactly how Blake operates. She uses sarcasm like a weapon, and she treats people like nothing. Like working professionals don't deserve basic respect if they're not famous enough or important enough in her eyes. And here's the thing, it's not like she has learned from it or has changed herself, because in 2024, at the London premiere of It Ends With Us, there's footage of Blake dismissing a fan who tried to give her a friendship bracelet.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much. That's so sweet. I'm gonna put it here because it doesn't go with my outfit, but I will wear it later.
When you put all these moments together, you see a consistent pattern. It's who she actually is. It's not some made-up thing. It's just an observation based on a whole bunch of documented moments. Now here's where things get really interesting, because in early 2024, something happened that might seem unrelated to this whole court case, but trust me, it's very much connected. So Princess Catherine basically disappeared from public life, and when someone that famous just vanishes, the whole world noticed. People were genuinely worried. There was all this speculation, all this concern, and then the royal family released this family photo to reassure everyone. However, people spotted that the image had been photoshopped. The fans went crazy trying to figure out what was going on. Then, the real truth came out. Princess Catherine had cancer. She was undergoing chemotherapy, and had gone into hiding to protect her family and deal with this diagnosis in private. It was genuinely bad news. But what do you do when a beloved public figure is battling cancer and the world is moving around her with support and compassion? If you're Blake Lively, you use it to sell mixer bottle. Her company, Betty Buzz, posted an Instagram image that directly mocked Catherine's Photoshop scandal. Like, during this crisis, Blake saw an opportunity to get some attention for her brand. Think about how cold you have to be to make that calculation. Like, the rest of the world is sending love to Catherine, thinking about her kids, feeling terrible for her family. And Blake is over there like, hey, let me use this moment to move some bottles. This is what they talked about in the New York pre-trial hearing. Justin Baldoni's lawyers brought up Kategate. They were making the case that Blake has a documented history of a certain behavior that reveals him ruining her reputation. And they're right, because Blake said Justin made people hate her, but she was already mocking a vulnerable woman in March 2024.
First of all, congrats on your little bump.
Congrats on your little bump.
That's the smoking gun in all this. She wants everyone to believe that the hate started with Justin's alleged smear campaign, but her own actions prove that the mean girl reputation came from her own choice, not from anyone else. And what's wild is that this stuff keeps coming out. Every time people think they've seen the worst of it, another document, another video, another deposition adds another layer to the picture. It's like watching a house of cards slowly collapsing, but instead of falling, it's just spreading wider and revealing new stuff.
He said, Ms. Lively has a track record of brands that have not succeeded. She is seeking pie-in-the-sky damages here.
Now let's talk about the movie, because this is where everything really went off the rails. And honestly, this is the part that made me the most frustrated, because what happened with It Ends With Us is kind of unforgivable when you really think about it. Court documents describe Blake's behavior as driven by overweening ambition and a need for control. That's legal speak for saying she basically tried to take over everything. But it got worse, because she used the entire press tour as a commercial for herself. She kept bringing up Ryan Reynolds' movie Deadpool and Wolverine. She shilled her hair care line. She promoted Betty Buzz and this alcoholic brand called Betty Booze. And okay, let that sink in for a second. You're doing press for a certain movie and you're talking about alcohol.
Magnus,
Yes.
when I saw you earlier, you said, oh, let me get a shot. And I thought you meant of alcohol, but you meant a photograph. So guess what? Time to put up.
And what are we drinking?
Aviation American Gin, who's
And-
owned by a very, very sexy man, who also happens to be my husband.
So after the press tour disaster, Blake's reputation was taking serious hits. She needed somewhere to put the blame, and that's when her legal team apparently looked at the Johnny Depp playbook. If you remember that whole messy trial between Johnny Depp and Amber Heard, you know how that strategy works. You go to court, claim you're the real victim, you allege some big secret smear campaign, and you demand millions in damages. Blake filed a lawsuit basically accusing Justin Baldoni and his PR team of orchestrating online hatred against her. She texted a crisis PR person named Melissa Nathan and said, "We can bury anyone, but here's the thing. The people who were angry at Blake, they were regular people who watched her Kategate post and thought it was not good for an actress to mock someone. They were regular people who watched her treat the press tour like a sales opportunity."
Fans slam Blake Lively for bullying Kate Middleton as she pokes fun at Photoshop fail. Now, this is the key word. It says it in the headline. Blake Lively bullying.
Counter-investigation into this whole thing revealed Blake and Ryan Reynolds have apparently spent around $50 million on legal fees and reputational management. They've hired armies of expensive lawyers. They've got crisis consultants on speed dial, and there are pretty strong indications they've deployed bot farms to flood the internet with positive comments about Blake and negative ones about Justin.
These people will deliver what she wants to hear because they're getting a check from her legal fund.
Think about that number, $50 million to destroy one director who just wanted to make a good movie. Experts who study this kind of thing are calling it evidence of basically a kind of obsession. They can't accept that they're wrong, so they keep pouring money into the hole, making it deeper and deeper. But here's the thing, spending that kind of money hasn't worked. Her image keeps getting worse. The more she fights, the worse it looks.
Well, you know what? You may be asked to join Baldoni's legal team because his lawyers have made similar arguments saying that Blake Lively has a poor track record of running businesses and that they fail because really people don't like her.
So all of this eventually ended up in an actual courtroom. There was this pre-trial conference in New York that lasted 3 hours. The judge was presiding, and from everything that came out of that hearing, Blake Lively's legal team probably wishes they'd never walked in there. The hearing showed this really interesting battle of the expert witnesses. Blake's team wants to bring in experts to argue that all those millions of mean girl mentions online were artificially generated. They want to convince the court that the hate was fake, manufactured by Justin's side. Justin Baldoni's team responded brilliantly. They brought in an AI marketing specialist, someone who can actually scientifically show how bot farms work, how AI-generated traffic gets created and distributed. Because this thing is pretty obvious. If anyone's using fake internet traffic to manipulate the narrative, it's probably Blake. She's the one who spent $50 million on this fight. Judge hasn't made final rulings on everything yet, so this is still ongoing. But the lines are clearly drawn. Blake is trying to prove a conspiracy. Justin is trying to prove that the backlash was real and that Blake is the one running this operation.
So that's a very big distinction that the jury's going to be told. Like, listen, just because we're admitting she complained about X doesn't mean X was actually happening. It just means we shouldn't punish her for saying X.
Now, Blake Lively is demanding $161 million in damages from Justin Baldoni. $161 million. Let that number sink in for a second. That's more money than most people will see in 10 lifetimes, let alone one lawsuit. Now, when you start breaking down what that number is actually supposed to cover, that's when things get really interesting. And by interesting, I mean completely detached from reality. Her team is claiming she lost somewhere between $132 and $142 million in future acting earnings. That's the big chunk of the demand. They're projecting that over the next 5 years, Blake was basically going to be rolling in it, 6 times her historical average, apparently. Like, she was just going to suddenly become one of the most prolific working actresses in Hollywood. But here's the funny part. Her own accountant testified about what she actually earned. You want to know the number? $21 million. That's what she made across 4 films over 8 years. So when you're claiming $142 million in future earnings, but your own financial records show you've averaged like $2.5 million per movie, the math just doesn't add up. Justin Baldoni's lawyer actually called this pie-in-the-sky math, which is such a perfect way to describe it. She's basically asking for money that was never, ever going to exist. Then there's the $35 million she's claiming for a sequel that may or may not have happened. This is for It Ends With Us 2, which apparently might have been made someday. Maybe, possibly, but there's no actual contract guaranteeing this. There's no deal in place. It's just pure speculation. Justin's team called it exactly that, highly speculative. You can't sue someone for money you might have made from a movie that was never even officially confirmed, but it gets better. Actually, it gets worse. She's also blaming Justin for tanking her hair care brand, claiming $49 million in losses, and her Betty Buzz drinks, claiming another $22 million in losses. She's saying his smear campaign destroyed her business ventures, except her own financial records tell a completely different story. Betty Buzz was already struggling. The company was literally pivoting to alcohol because the mixer line wasn't selling. That's not Justin's fault. That's just regular old bad business. And her hair care brand? It collapsed specifically because she promoted it during the domestic violence press tour. She alienated the exact audience who might have actually supported her. That's not a smear campaign. That's just the consequences. And here's maybe the messiest part of this whole financial fantasy. Blake was actually entitled to a bonus of over $30 million for the movie, but she refused to sign her final actor loan out agreement. Apparently, there was some workplace tantrum involved, and she just wouldn't sign, so she forfeited that money herself. $30 million that was already hers, that she literally just threw away because she couldn't handle working within the system. And now she's in court demanding that Justin pay her to replace money she gave up out of stubborn pride. So when you add all this up, future earnings that were never happening, a sequel that was never confirmed, businesses that were already failing, and a bonus she refused to collect, you start to wonder if this is even a serious legal strategy or just performance art. While all this financial madness was playing out, there's this whole other drama happening around who gets to testify at trial. And honestly, this section tells you everything you need to know about how Blake builds her alliances and how quickly they fall apart. There's this actress named Isabella Ferrer. She played the younger version of Blake's character in It Ends With Us. Now, what did Blake do when she met this young actress? She invited her over for sleepovers. Like, that's what adults do when they're trying to bond with kids, right? Except in this context, it felt more like recruiting. Blake was trying to get this young actress on her side, probably hoping she'd be a friendly witness if things went to trial. But court documents show something really interesting. Isabella was exchanging what are described as grateful texts with Justin Baldoni during and after filming.
Isabel Ferrer did not raise complaints with Wayfair at all and had previously given very positive feedback about her experience, including her interactions with Justin and the film's intimacy coordinator.
Those texts actually prove that Justin conducted conducted himself respectfully during intimate scenes. And then there's Colleen Hoover. She wrote the original book. She'd been friends with Justin for like 5 years. She trusted him with her story. But when Blake came along and decided she wanted to take over the whole operation, Colleen switched sides. She helped Blake try to push Justin out. Because Justin made a creative decision Colleen didn't like. He decided to write the character out of the sequel's narrative. His reason was actually pretty noble. He wanted to show the victim being truly free from her opponent, not constantly tethered to him through sequel responsibilities. But Colleen wanted that character in there because she could make more money writing and filming sequels, with him included. She cared more about the paycheck than the message, so she helped Blake. But here's the thing about alliances built on convenience. The second thing got hard. They got broken. When the backlash hit after the press tour disaster, Colleen went completely silent. She ghosted Blake completely. It was transactional from the start, and as soon as adversity arrived, Colleen did what transactional people do. She looked out for herself.
Here is the first email that Colleen replied with. And it does say, I'm going to skip right to the third paragraph, where it says, I've sold several film options and I realize not all of them get made, and I'm okay with that. One of the film options was not a great experience.
Now we get to probably the most chilling part of this whole saga, and that's watching what happens to the people around Blake when the evidence starts coming out. Initially, Ryan Reynolds was all in. He helped rewrite the movie. He funded the $50 million legal war chest. He used his power and influence to try to crush a smaller director. They were a united front. But then the evidence dropped. Kategate came out. The fantasy math got exposed, and suddenly Ryan Reynolds is showing up alone at events in Los Angeles. When journalists asked him about the feud, he looked uncomfortable. He tried to go around the questions without fully committing to his wife's side. That's not a husband who's confident his wife is in the right. That's a guy who's starting to realize he backed the wrong horse. People also noticed a huge shift on social media. Ryan used to post about Blake all the time. Couple content, cute comments, the whole thing, but that content basically dried up. He's not associating himself with her publicly anymore. He's a businessman worth $350 million. He knows damage control when he sees it, and he knows when to distance himself from a sinking ship. But the real signal? That came from Zach Galifianakis. On his new Netflix show, This Is a Gardening Show, which is honestly an amazing title for a comedy special, Zach made this joke about Ryan Reynolds.
If I were to offer a remedy to the human condition, it would be a garden.
Now, Zach is known for being honest in his comedy. He doesn't pull punches, and this joke was clearly targeting their diminished status in the entertainment industry. And here's why that's huge. The journalist Blake humiliated back in 2016 actually commented on this moment. She pointed out that when a comedian of Zach's caliber uses Netflix to make fun of you on a global platform, your power is basically gone. You're not a Hollywood player anymore. The industry has spoken. The Reynolds lively machine no longer intimidates the entertainment world. They were once the kind of people who could bury anyone who crossed them. But now, they're the ones getting buried, and everyone's watching it happen. So we've got the financial delusions, the alliances falling apart, and the Hollywood exodus as everyone starts running from this mess. But at the end of all of this, what actually remains? What does the evidence actually prove? Well, here's the thing. Every single document, every video, every deposition, every financial record, they all point to the same thing. Blake Lively isn't raging because she was victimized. She's raging because she got caught. The story she's been telling the world, the one about being this sweet, fun, misunderstood celebrity who got targeted by some evil PR campaign, the court evidence just completely destroyed that thing. Justin Baldoni didn't manufacture her reputation. She built it herself, brick by brick, over almost 2 decades. That monkey comment to Leighton Meester? Her idea. The Cage's joke about a colleague's incarcerated mother? Her idea. Mocking a princess battling cancer to sell mixer bottles? Also her idea. Turning a movie into a lifestyle brand commercial? That was all her. She cannot outsource blame for any of this. The label isn't some invention by her opponent Justin. It's literally just the truth staring back at her, and the judge saw it too. That's a court system essentially saying, yeah, most of this doesn't hold up. But what might be the most interesting part of this whole saga is that Ryan Reynolds is backing away. His own husband is creating distance. This is a guy who literally married her, who funded the legal war, who rewrote her movie, and even he can see what everyone else sees, a sinking ship he doesn't want to go down with. That's not love failing. That's basic self-preservation. Even marital loyalty has limits, and apparently Blake found them. And let's be real for a second. When Zach Galifianakis uses his Netflix special to make fun of Ryan Reynolds, the whole industry takes note. If you made it this far, you're basically a Blake Lively court document expert at this point. Hit that subscribe button if you want more breakdowns like this, and I'll see you in the next one.